Well, how you doing there? Greetings. I spent a decent portion of my life trying to simplify things, fundamentally knowing that the so-called scientists are wrong, because the scientists love to pigeonhole things. Yes, we got gravity over here and electromagnetism over here. Even they themselves admit they're looking for a grand unified theory. Of course, things are already unified. From the mind of Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it, don't matter. Everything is already unified. People looking for unification are no different than those who say, I'm ignorant, I don't know how these things are connected. Think about that for a second, because necessitatively there's no other answer to that. Scientists looking for unification of fields and basically many things together, they're basically saying they're ignorant, which is okay. It's okay to confess ignorance. How these people, unfortunately, think that they're not ignorant. They reify things that don't actually exist, things like quantum, because nothing in nature refers to quantum. Absolutely nothing. It's a made-up word. Actually, it's referred to the das Lichtquant, quantity, i.e. materialism, i.e. atomism. Because today scientists are not actually scientists. What they are mathematicians. And the fundamental religion of math, not Greek arithmetic, by the way, fundamental religion of math is that if you can't count it, it doesn't exist. Anyway, I've been trying to unify things, and of course, once again, everything is unified. Everything must operate simply. Mother Nature is highly simple, not necessitatively simplex. Yes? So, unification of things and following Occam's razor. We must understand that all fields must necessitatively be unified. And I've done that, and I actually, unfortunately, slightly struggled with the unification of light and matter until I realized, well, duh, matter is nothing other than ultra-high energy light. And I made that prediction. I said scientists or experimenters would accurately say, we'll discover this in the not-too-distant future. I said that years ago. In the end of last year, that was actually discovered to be true. Phase conjugate lasers, ultra-high energy, when they were actually brought into constructive interference with one another, they actually produced matter. They produced hydrogen. Extremely high energy light is nothing other than hydrogen or matter, because all atoms, whether it be boron or gold or silver, it wouldn't matter what it is, uranium, anything, it's just a compound of hydrogen. That's not my opinion. That, of course, necessitatively so, is a fact. So I knew that everything must be unified. We actually look at the most plausible and the most rational, and the only thing that actually obeys everything in nature is Pythagorean monism. We can say Neoplatonic monism, we can say Platonic. By the way, there's no distinction between genuine Pythagoreanism, genuine Platonism, and genuine Neoplatonism, vis-a-vis Syrianus, Damasius, Proclus, Numenius, Iamblichus, Porphyry, Plotinus. It's all one and the same thing. They're all one and the same thing. All of these things posit that everything is connected, and that is monism. And the fundamental precept at the very top or utmost of monism is that there's no prima causa, or original sin, or first cause. Doesn't matter what you want to call it, original sin, first cause. There is no first cause. First cause is not cause at all, rather extrinsic attribute. Yeah? When you actually start talking about original sin and causation, you end up with a hornet's nest of fallacies and contradictions, illogical impossibilities, and the people that were able to get around that simply, because simplicity is divinity, that's the motto that I came up with, were the Pythagoreans, i.e. the Platonists, i.e. the Neoplatonists, and they said, from the absolute perspective, the one and the attribute, and they called the attribute 3 different names, yeah? You can also, too, call it the demiurge, which doesn't make any difference. They called it the Aristos Dias, they called it Tolma, and they called it Ananke. They said the one and the attribute are one and the same thing. Principle and attribute. Because nothing is, nor can anything be conceived that doesn't have at least one attribute. And lo and behold, since everything in nature is connected at their most simple, they're all mirrors of one thing and one thing only. And interestingly enough, the one and its attribute, and there's a reason why the first 2 digits of the Fibonacci sequence are 1 and 1, it goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, so on and so forth, 8, 13, so on and so forth. The one and the attribute, kind of like light and illumination. Light and illumination are not two different things. We're referring to the principle, light, and its attribute, illumination. You can't talk about illumination without talking about light. We can't talk about light without the ideation of the extrinsic attribute of light, which, of course, is illumination. This would be like the first two digits of the Fibonacci sequence, 1 and 1. Well, lo and behold, in fields, we have that conjugate simplicity. Yeah? Because magnetism is not something different, but scientists love to pigeonhole things. Yeah, we got this over here and that over there, but it doesn't work that way. It's like saying we got ice over here and water over here and steam over here. It's like, no, those are all one thing. They're just different modalities of one thing. Water, right? Same is true of dielectricity and magnetism. It's the conjugate geometry of the entire universe. The simplicity of the absolute of energy. Now, when you say energy, human beings are always confused. They think energy is the release of energy. What we got here is wood burning. It's energy. Look at that. Energy is being released, the wood being burned. No, you're looking at the dissipation or the impotency of energy. True energy would just be the wood itself, for example, in that analogy. True energy would be light itself, not in reference to illumination. True energy would be the dielectric, which is a manifestation from counter space. You could say zero-point energy, you could say subspace, who cares what you call it? Mother Nature doesn't care, nor do I. Counter space is kind of a ridiculous, slightly stupid word, but it kind of explains things rather intrinsically. It denotes them correctly. But the extrinsic attribute, like light and illumination, or to the agathon, i.e. the one, and its attribute, or to the euristos dias, the absolute and its attribute. Yes? Like light and illumination, is the dielectric and the magnetic, because magnetism is the dielectric field, the loss of that energy or inertia, because take our wood and our wood-burning fire here, the dielectric would be the wood, and magnetism would be the fire. Yeah, it's like, well, where's the fire coming from? Without the wood, there is no fire. Like, well, that's fire, it's hot. Wood is like cold and hard. Like, yeah, what happens when wood is set afire? That's kind of a bad analogy, because then we'd have causation entering into it. Original sin. Little Bobby lit the match and he lit the wood on fire. Then we'd be talking about Judeo-Christianity. Original sin. Little Bobby lights a match and sets the logs on fire. So we can't take that analogy very seriously, right? But it's kind of linked. Let's say it was logs are self-igniting, which they kind of sometimes do. Have you ever seen a foxfire or heard of spontaneous combustion out in the wild? And it's not due to lightning, it's due to bacteria that logs sometimes will spontaneously combust. Isn't that neat? It's a very rare occurrence. Anyway, that's kind of slightly off topic. Getting back to simplicity. Everything in nature must mirror this, the dielectric and the magnetic. The loss of energy or inertia of the corresponding dielectric manifests as magnetism. The cross factor of these two, and these are basically the exact words of Eric Dollard and of Charles Proteus Steinmetz, who is mirroring, is the byproduct of dielectricity and magnetism, i.e. electricity. Force and inertia. Force and motion, inertia and acceleration. These are not inverse to one another. One is the loss of energy or inertia of the other, which represents centrifugal force and motion. Love and hatred. Love would be synonymous with the dielectric, and hatred, of course, would be synonymous. People burning themselves up with hatred, just kind of like this log fire over here. The expenditure of energy. Someone actually wells up a wellspring of hatred within them. They manifest the loss of energy. They manifest energy, but that's not energy, it's the dissipation or burning of energy. This is how people full of hate burn themselves up. We say this figuratively, but it is almost literal. It's literally the etheric fires of one's spirit consuming itself, because it can never be fulfilled. Collectors, the world is separated by another duality, but it's not a duality, it's principle and attribute. Collectivism versus individualism. With force and motion, we have individuation. We have the vector of the creation of space, and we have mass and magnitude, and we have time, which is the measure of mass and magnitude. Time is not a thing. Every ancient culture, once again, said time is the number 4. Every ancient culture. What's the only digit missing in the first 5 digits of the Fibonacci sequence? The number 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. The only number missing? 4, i.e. time. Time is completely unreal. It's a measure. Time is not a thing. You can't bend time. Sure you can. It's what Star Trek says. Even in ancient Pali from Gautama said the world is carried on by a duality, dvayanisaro. That's true. There's different dualities though, love and hate, respect and disrespect. There's worldly dualities and there's transcendent dualities. But these are not actual dualities. You can't say light and illumination are a duality. Some people like to do that though. Light and illumination, it's a duality. Just like the one. The one is dual. No, it's not. The first two digits of the Fibonacci sequence are not 1 and 2. That would be a duality. We got 1 here and 2 there. First two digits of the Fibonacci sequence are 1 and 1, which themselves are one holos, meaning one whole. You know what holism means? I've tried to and successfully look past all the dualities and nonsense that people and so-called scientists have talked about getting to the nature, because I've never seen metaphysics and field theory as two different things, and rightly so, because they're not two different things. Necessitatively so. There's that word again, necessitatively. Nanke. Necessitatively so. Everything is this, not this and this. Metaphysics and physics over here. And you got spirituality here and field theory over here. They're two different things. No, they're not. They're not. You have the conjugate reality of the magnetic and the dielectric. Magnetism is the dielectric field. Loss of energy or inertia manifests as a three-dimensional force vector. It's the three-dimensional force vector of centrifugal divergence. The opposite of that is centripetal convergence, the returning dielectric, returning capacitance. Dielectric is representative of capacitance, and magnetism is representative of force, of volume. The world is holographic. The world follows the Poincare disk model of projective geometry. By the way, that guy, the guy Einstein copied 95% of his stuff from, look him up. A lot of his books are free online. His name is Henri Poincare, Henri Poincare, Henri Poincare. Even Einstein said the secret is hiding your sources. He said that, by the way. Did you know the word Einstein means one stone, i.e. stupid? Did you know that? His name literally means stupid. Look it up. How apropos. I've been trying to simplify things most of my life. I've been extremely successful at it. Way more successful than anybody else I could think of. The people that I cherish and admire, Plotinus, these people are dead, of course. Plotinus, Coomaraswamy, Dr. Anandakita Coomaraswamy, who wrote dozens and dozens of books, knew 27 languages. Have a lot of respect for him, recommend his stuff. I've superseded him, greatly so. I mean, I agree with him on a lot of points. He didn't get everything right, but he got about 95% of everything right. Kind of like Walter Russell. Walter Russell got about 85% of everything right, which is really, really, really high praise. He didn't see a lot of stuff. That's okay, though. I'm not interested in being better than them. I was interested in standing on the shoulders of giants and seeing further. And I have accomplished that. Simplicity is divinity. Everything is linked. There's no distinction between metaphysics and field theory. The binary of magnetism and dielectricity are not a binary. And they're not a duality. They are one thing and one thing only. They are different modalities of one thing. Just like the principle and the attribute, just like light and illumination. And they are not two things. They are one. Anybody that calls it a duality is looking at things with the glasses of ignorance. I see two things. Like, well, I know you see two things. That's because you're ignorant. And you can't see that these two things are really one thing. It's like a child thinks ice is one thing and water is another. Give me some of that hard stuff from the freezer to stick in my drink. Oh, you mean ice? Yes. In other words, cold water. Today's scientists are exactly like ignorant children that think ice and water are two different things. They're trying to unify something that's already unified. I started out with that premise. I'm not interested in unifying things that are already unified. I'm interested in seeing with clarity and wisdom how things are already unified. And with that, I've had success. And if you approach it the same way, you too shall have success. Wisdom above all else. Lux Evertus. Hope you have a great week. I wouldn't bore you to death. If you ever want to email me, you can check the description below. There's also a donation link there. You can tell me how much you hate me or hate this video. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever floats your boat. Because I'm just that way. I'm going to edit that out of this video. Thank you. Goodbye.